Welcome to the Destination Begin podcast. I'm your host, Kristen Smith. I've lost over 250 pounds. I've started my life over multiple times and managed to find humor, lessons, and joy in the process. And now I'm here, sharing those stories with you. Thanks for joining me. I have some new stuff on my website. I asked the universe for some help with my website, and I asked the universe to drop it out of the sky. And sure enough, someone dropped it out of the sky to help me with my website. And on my website now, there's a couple cool things. Number one, you can click on there to set up a call with me to talk about coaching. Now, I have a lot of new clients. It's been a really busy last few weeks onboarding new clients, and it's so much fun because my clients get results immediately. Immediately. Why? Because I'm an amazing coach and my clients know what they want. So if you know what you want, if you want to move out of the mud, call me. So there's a way on the website now where you can book a call with me. There's also this really cool link to sign up for my mailing list, and you get access to a folder of resources. In that folder, there are at-home workouts, gym workouts, my workbook on self-love, my workbook on your health, so you can figure out how many calories and protein you need, what kind of movement is ideal. There are videos in there on mindset. There's a meal plan, a 6-week fat loss macro-based meal plan. And there's also a 5-day clean up your diet, real food, high protein meal plan, including a grocery list. There's going to be stuff added to that folder regularly. So go on my website, look around, click on the book a call with me. Book a call with me. Let's talk. If you found me on this podcast and you just want to talk to me, I just want to talk to you. Book a time. Let's talk. I would love to just hear from you. I would love to answer your questions. And if it makes sense for us to work together, I would be stoked. Now, my coaching plans start very reasonably at $99. So you're not going to be getting a loan to work with me. It all depends on what you want. I talk to some clients for an hour every single week, and they're in my Freedom Program group calls. I talk to some clients once a month for 15 minutes. I write workouts for people. They never talk to me. They just do their workouts. Whatever budget, whatever need, whatever level of coaching my clients need, I offer to them. But I'm so confident that you're going to love working with me, that you're going to want to spend all of your time investing in you. That's the whole goal. You're worth investing in, and I'm worth talking to. So go to my website, click on book a call with me, or click on the weight loss navigator and sign up to get access to all those great resources. I can't talk. KristenSmithOnline.com. It's a phenomenally new redesigned website. So take a look at it. Even if you don't click on anything, I'm really proud of it. And so grateful for Declan. Declan is the marketing genius who fell out of the sky, literally fell out of the sky into my lap to help me put this together for all of you. So check it out. KristenSmithOnline.com. Hi. Welcome to the episode. I'm so excited to have a special guest today here. I have Brenda on the podcast. She is here to talk to you about her experience that she's been having reaching her goals, connecting with herself, and working with me in the process. And so this is client success story with Brenda. So welcome to the podcast, Brenda.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here.
Yay. So Brenda is on her phone in Colorado, and I'm on my phone in Miami Beach, and we're making this podcast for you. So if there are any little crackles, we apologize, but this is the magic of podcasting. I always want to remind you that if you have a desire to do a podcast, it's this easy, and now you can pull your friends in. So, all right. So Brenda, I'm not gonna preface any of this conversation with my take. I just want you to talk. I want this to be all about you and your story. So tell everyone how you found me and why you sent me an email to start working with me.
Okay. So I guess it goes back to this summer. It was the beginning of July, and I found myself, I was in July, recently separated, in the process of getting divorced. I had just gone through a raging custody battle for my 6-year-old Jack, the light of my life. I had just finished therapy kind of for all of that, and I was at a peaceful place, but I was just at a place where I was like, man, I got to pick up the pieces. How do I pick up the pieces? I've gained 40 pounds, and what does life look like, from here forward? And what do I do? I feel like it's important to say back in 2018, I had gastric sleeve surgery. And so I had lost, I don't know, 80 pounds with that and was feeling really great. I was moving my body. I was eating well, and then COVID hit. And I feel like in one way or another, COVID affected everyone, and it certainly
Oh yeah.
affected me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have had so many conversations with people that include narrative, and then COVID happened. And so
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
And thank God, I wasn't on a ventilator in a hospital or people that were in my life, but it affected me in a different way to where, it put my relationship in a pressure cooker and just kind of my life blew up. So anyway, 3 years later, I find myself in July, um, single with Jack, 40 pounds heavier. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this? I work in the healthcare field. And so, I was seeing a lot of people overweight, looking helpless, with their diabetes and having amputations and high blood pressure and, all these things. It's like, my health is really important to me. I have a 6-year-old that I need to, be healthy for a long period of time. And how do I do this? I just felt really out of control as far as my eating was going. Even though
Hmm.
I had had weight loss surgery, it's pretty impressive that I got to, gain 40 pounds in, I don't know, 2 years. Um, so I had made a couple of appointments with my healthcare provider to discuss possibly revising my gastric sleeve into a Roux-en-Y. And each time I made the appointment, I just canceled. I was like, I don't know that I want to do that because there's all these other whole host of concerns and issues and things that go along with that. And I just,
Yeah.
it's really important for me to be healthy for my son. That important. It's that important to do that, But then I was like, okay, so you have that and you haven't addressed any of the mental issues, mental problems that go along with why I gained 40 pounds again, all the emotional eating, all of the binge eating, all of the stress eating.
Yeah,
So it's like,
can you just to kind of pause a second and explain a little bit. So I have quite a few listeners that have had weight loss surgery, and I have some
yeah,
that don't really understand. So just to give a little background, so gastric sleeve is the same surgery I had, which
yeah,
so I'm like sleeve sisters.
yes,
So that's where they remove a portion of your stomach so
right,
that you can't eat as much.
right,
And then what all patients go through is that restriction
yeah,
goes away, and you experience that, right?
yes.
Where you can eat like a normal person again, basically.
Yeah, pretty normal. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely had a lot of restriction the first, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And probably if I hadn't just pushed it so much, I still would, And I think that even through all of that stressful part of my life, I just found ways to kind of eat around it. It's like I'd still eat until I'm full. And then if a couple hours later I was not as full, I could eat again. So it's just, there was restriction, but because of the emotional stress in my life, and this was the only way I knew how to handle it, I found ways around it.
Yeah, well, and see, this is a very important point because I know, and this is where maybe you and I can talk about this parenthetically to our main conversation. But
Yeah.
um, I have a lot of people who say, "Oh my gosh, you've lost all of this weight. How did you do it?" And I tell them, "Well, it's taken me a long time,
Yeah.
and I did have a weight loss surgery." And they go, "Oh, okay." And they look at you like, "Oh, well, then you cheated, and you have nothing to say that will help me." And I get a little prickly because it's like, well, yes, I did have weight loss surgery and it helped me for a period of time. It was a powerful tool, but the emotional eating for me continued. The
Yeah.
weight gain started right after that restriction. And so, did you have that misconception from people too that, like, oh, you've had a weight loss surgery and so it must just be easy for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I mean, I feel like I don't know, I feel like I went into my surgery pretty well informed. I had listened to a podcast. It was called the Weight Loss Surgery Podcast. And she was amazing. She's a nurse practitioner in a bariatric facility. And she interviewed all the people. She interviewed nutritionists and doctors and patients and talked about all the things. So I feel like I was very well informed going into it. And still, I had, Afterwards, I worked really hard to move my body and eat well, and I did a good job of that, but still hadn't addressed the emotional eating.
Yeah, that's the key. People often say to me, I wish I had a magic pill. And I would
Mm.
often say to them, like, I thought that I had the magic pill, but the magic pill doesn't work on anybody if we choose anything for the wrong reason. If you choose
Yeah.
food for the wrong reason,
Yeah.
a magic pill isn't going to help you. And I think that can be the really depressing discovery after weight loss surgery. And
Yeah.
even if you are prepared to be like, oh, yeah, like I still want to eat the junk food. I still want to eat my feelings, even though I can't or I shouldn't, etc. It doesn't change that piece. So tell everyone what the revision is, because I actually don't know a whole lot about revision.
Well, so what I learned before the gastric sleeve was like, oh, the great thing is, if you need to, you can have the sleeve converted to a Roux-en-Y. So basically, they change your smaller stomach that was made with a gastric sleeve into a smaller stomach, and then they also bypass a portion of your intestines, like they do with the Roux-en-Y, so that then you're also having less length of intestines for absorption.
Ah, okay. So it's like a revision and then essentially additional work.
I mean, yeah, like it's basically you go to a Roux-en-Y. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. Okay, so that was on your agenda. So how far down that road had you gone?
Well, I mean, I had just made 2 appointments with my doctor to start the conversation, and then I just canceled the appointments because I was just like, "You're going to have to do this on your own. You're going to have to figure this out." Well, and it's just like I was just kind of like going in circles. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is really important, but I don't really want to do that. But what do I do? So hence here we get to the middle of July, and Jack and I were going to meet my brother and sister-in-law in Wyoming for a camping weekend. And so we had a 3-hour drive to Wyoming. And so Jack gets to be on his tablet on long car rides, which means I'm free to do whatever I want. And I had searched weight loss surgery podcasts, I feel like, just to try and find somebody with a different perspective. And you had been in my queue. Yeah. So on that drive, I was like, oh, I'm going to pull up one of these. Which one looks good? And I mean, immediately, you just like spoke to my soul. I feel like the way that you are just honest and positive, and all the messages that you give were just something that I like listened to one, and then I listened to another, and then I listened to another. Yeah. So you were with me all the way up and all the way back on that drive. So I got, I don't know, 6 or 7 podcasts, and I was like, I want to know more about this. And I had been thinking, okay, so let me also say this. I had been thinking I had such a great experience in therapy and so profoundly realized how important it is to be able to talk to somebody, and work through problems together. I have spent periods of my life just really alone,
Yeah.
So I had been thinking, man, I should find somebody to talk to, a life coach. So in your podcast, you're like, hey, I do life coaching. I do weight loss coaching, this and this. And I was like, all right, I'm going to reach out to this woman because I feel like this could be a really, really good fit for me.
Woohoo! I'm so glad you
Yeah.
did. I just got emotional too because, I sit down to record my podcast and I don't ever think about the fact that there could be a random day where I'm like, I don't know, sitting around here doing nothing and my voice is playing in someone's car on a road trip. And that makes me emotional because, for me, sometimes it's a task and I think about like, what do I want to get out there? And then I feel really passionate about it. I say it. And then I say it on this podcast all the time. As far as I know, 2 people listen because maybe 2 people respond to me, but people listen and don't say anything, just like I consume things. But anyway, so yay, I'm so glad that just made my day. I didn't know that. I knew you listened to it on a road trip, but 6 or 7 episodes. And how's Jack? Does Jack know me well? If he
Probably. I mean, he's off in his own little world in the back. Yeah, but I mean, it was playing in the car. It wasn't playing on my earbud, so he was hearing your voice
Oh,
for
there we
sure.
go. So I got an email from you, just explaining a little bit about, your situation for just to have a phone call.
Yeah.
And I was so excited because that morning I had been kind of praying in my morning, like, you know what? I just asked the universe, drop someone in my lap. Drop something in my lap that just confirms to me that I'm in the right line of work. My goal is to help people. And so when your email came in, again, here's me ugly crying, like the universe is listening, and it was you. So it meant so much. Like all my clients, I love all of you, but Brenda means something very special because she was the reminder from the universe that I have a job to do, and it's to me divinely appointed. So anyway, it's not enough about me. So so you reached out to me. It was July, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was July.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, I reached out to you. I feel like when I got home, I was like, I'm just going to let her know, hey, I'm interested in this. And you got back to me right away. And you're like, oh my gosh, I was just praying about this morning, or meditating about this morning.
Yes.
Yeah. So then we met, and I was like, yeah, I feel like you can really help me, you know? And so like our first meeting, I'm just crying because I feel like I'm such a hot mess. And you're like, we can do this together, let's just start with something simple, because I was like, I don't even know where to begin, and
Yes.
all the things. And I was just like I said, like spiraling, I was just like in a mess. And you said, it's like you're on the side of the road in the mud. And I was like, that's exactly what it's like. I just feel like I'm sitting here and I don't know where to start.
Yes. Yes. That's the analogy I use for everyone because, especially when we have had success before, like you've had weight loss surgery before, like
Yeah.
know all the things, and so much so that you know too much. Like all the things, and it's overwhelming, and you then beat yourself up like, why am I not doing it? I know what I'm supposed to do. And that just keeps you swirling, and what happens when you swirl in the mud? You get deeper and deeper in the mud.
Absolutely. And I feel like there was also this component of just real low self-confidence, I mean, just still feeling like I'm beating myself up over the last 3 years, and then on top of it, it's like, I don't even, I can't clean my kitchen, let alone cook for myself, and then I've got this child who needs me too, so I felt like there were so many things. And you're like, okay, calm down. We're going to work on one thing at a time. We're going to get through all of this. We're going to work on one thing at a time. And I remember that first day, you're like, protein first. We're
Yes.
going to work on 3 goals. I think
Yes.
you said protein first. Let's
Yeah.
get some water in you. And then what do you think about some movement goals? And I was like, I think I only committed to 2 walks a week. You're like,
Yes.
great, let's do that.
Yes. So I just looked at your week one. So your week
Mhm.
one goals were you committed to 25 minutes of walking three
Yeah.
times,
Okay.
to go to the gym one time,
Yeah.
and to start logging your food 5 days in the next week. So very basic. Any person who knows anything about lifestyle would say like, well, if someone only walked 25 minutes 3 times a week and all they were told to do is log their food, that doesn't change their body. And I would say, yeah, probably not. But what we had to do first was to change your mindset, to
Yeah.
change from sitting in the mud to I'm moving, I'm
Yeah.
doing something. And so when you work with me, you're making a commitment, and I hold you to be 100%. 100% is all we accept.
Yeah.
That's it. So don't commit if you can't do it. And you committed,
Yeah.
and it was all very basic things. And then you had we talked about, the lifestyle of what's something that would help you focus in on feeding yourself and paying attention to your meals. And so we right away started with the habit of eating at the table as an
Yeah.
option. So we didn't put a hard fast rule on that one,
Yeah.
but to say, if I eat at the table, my meal, I'm going to check this off. It's going to feel good to cultivate this habit
Yeah.
without committing to something that I know I'm not proud to do all the time.
Yeah, and I have really appreciated being able to talk with you through those things as we set my goals, because with the idea that it's like it needs to be 100% of the time, and you've also explained to me this isn't about Kristen will be upset with you if you don't do this. It's about showing up for yourself and holding yourself accountable, and showing yourself that you can do hard things, and that there's integrity in setting yourself up for success. So I was really
Yeah.
thankful for that. You're like, it's not that I'm going to be disappointed in you. It's you're going to be disappointed in yourself, So let's make these goals doable so you can be proud of yourself.
Yes. Because what happens is when we are in these cycles, we are feeling so bad about how we're showing up. And we've started and failed so many times that when we set a goal, we go, well, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. We have no trust in ourselves. So when I'm like, hey, I need you to do this, 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 and this, you can say, well, that sounds great, but I don't think I can do it. So
For real.
these small things,
Yeah.
really short amount of time, you start to say, well, if I say it, I'll do it. And if I'm not going to do it, I won't say it. And that
Yeah.
becomes really valuable because then you can do anything that
Right.
you want to do. So those optional habits, also that verbiage of I have a choice on this. And on days I'm feeling really great, I can say, hey, I'm going to do this too. But on days where you're like, I literally cannot do that, it's too much, you can say, I'm not failing. I'm not letting anyone down. I'm just choosing to do what's on my plate. And that, I feel like for you and your habits, you've handled that so beautifully. Like, nope, I'm not ready to commit to that, but I
Yeah.
will entertain that.
It's really, really helped because I feel like there has been a lot of negative self-talk in my brain, and just these simple enough things that I can focus on and that I can do and that I can check the box off. That was another thing that we did was I'm going to drink water before coffee every morning. And I was like, I can do that. And for weeks, I told you, I was like, Kristen, it just feels so good to be able to start the day with checking off a box. It's just amazing to start my day that way.
Yes, immediately. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is those, it's a positive little ping of dopamine of being
Yeah.
able to check off a box. People talk about checklists and they make fun of people who write things on the checklist just to check them off.
Yeah.
But the reason we do that is we get a dopamine rush. It's really it hits a little pleasure center in the middle of your brain.
Yeah.
So that was a great idea to have something first in the day. And water before coffee, everyone should be doing that. It's one of the easiest ways to wake your body up and help yourself. And then also you get a little dopamine.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
And
you
I still
started.
do it.
Oh, go ahead.
I still do it and I check it off in my mind and it makes me happy still. Even though I don't have it on my checklist, it's still there and it's still good.
Yeah, well, you've just made it as part of your identity. I am
Yeah.
Brenda. I brush my teeth every day, and I have water before coffee.
Yep.
It's what you do. So it's been, let's see, 3, 6, 7 weeks, and
Yep.
so over these 7 weeks, what have you experienced in kind of moving through your habits and establishing habits? Let's talk about kind of one thing at a time. Let's talk about nutrition. So we started with a high calorie goal. I start everyone with a high calorie goal because my goal is to get you to focus on protein and not about the scale. And if
Yeah.
you're focusing on protein, you're not going to be able to overeat so much that you're going to have an issue with at least keeping your weight stable.
Yep.
But protein and high calories, so you're not hungry and you're not white knuckling it. So talk a little bit about nutrition, how it started and how it's been progressing over 7 weeks.
I feel like, the way that you approach this protein first and let's set this and just focus on that. You're like, just focus on that. We're not even going to worry about the fat and the carbs because those are going to fall into line. If you're making your calorie goal about 2000 and you're working on focusing on protein, the rest will fall into place. That has been really profound for me because, even after weight loss surgery, I feel like they said, get your protein in first, but I don't know that I focused on a number or it was different than this time because this time I'm like, well, I'm really hungry. And then I eat protein. I'm like, man, I'm satisfied and I'm satisfied for a while.
Yes.
And then a couple of times where I've eaten like carbs as a snack or whatever, it just kind of goes away faster. And I feel like it's falling into place for me. It's hitting for me in a different way than it ever has before to where I'm like, oh, protein first. Because it sits in your tummy and it takes a long time to digest and it's good for you and it fuels your body and it's satisfying, rather than a whole bunch of carbs that just condense down and they get digested quickly and you're hungry, within an hour afterwards. And
Yes.
it just is, it's connecting for me in a way that it never has before.
Yes, and that too, you've stepped up because, when we first started working together, we were struggling to get 90 grams of protein. So we started with 90 grams of protein is the goal.
Yep.
And then once you were consistently hitting that, we bumped it to 120.
Yep.
And once you were consistently hitting that, and again, not every day, you had
Yep.
3 days a week, 4 days a week. Now you're consistently reaching for 150 grams of protein a day. So doubled your protein intake in a few weeks, step by step, as you've learned what foods you like, how much you need to have in a meal. And so, you have scaled this trajectory, like I think the fastest I've seen anyone in a while. And protein is tough for a lot of people. I get a lot of pouting. People don't want to do it and they're just like, well, it's too hard. And I've
Yeah.
just seen you like, no, it's protein first at every meal, and bam, bam, bam. So you've stepped up to doubling your protein.
Yeah.
At least, and that's the thing too, is you've set really reasonable goals. This is so hard for a lot of people. They want progress so fast. They're not willing to settle into a habit. And
Yeah.
you've been willing to settle into a habit, even if it's half the time, so that you can really adjust. And though these changes, they're going to be permanent because they're
Right.
becoming just what you do, like your water
Yeah.
before coffee.
Yeah.
So protein, and you have a 6-year-old, so it's not like you're just eating by yourself all of the time.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about protein, some of the surprising things, some of the foods you've grabbed, you've added. People are always wanting protein ideas, so let's talk about that here.
Yeah. I mean, I like protein. I like healthy food, which is just nice to remember, because I feel like, in the last 2 years where there's just been chaos, I just have been grabbing junk, and it's like, oh, I really enjoy salmon, now and then. And oh, cottage cheese. I haven't had cottage cheese in forever, and I really enjoy that. And it's very satisfying. So, um, you know, there's just a huge variety of proteins that I enjoy. Uh, Cottage cheese, salmon, chicken breast. You on one of your podcasts, you're like, I really like these chicken burgers, and I went and got those, and they're delicious, and I feel like I found a good chicken sausage. I apologize, I did not look up
It's
the
okay, I
name
threw
to
this on
tell
you.
you. Yeah. There's a really good chicken sausage. It's just at Walmart, and it's just delicious, and it's pretty reasonably, it's not one of those that's high in fat.
Yeah.
But it's really satisfying. So there've been just lots of things that I have been reminding myself that they're just delicious. And along with all of this too, the thing that I feel like is different than anything I've done, at any point in my life, because I did all the diets, I mean, I've done Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig and all the things, I feel like as we're talking about protein and these things, we're also talking about emotional eating. And, you're like, give me assignment to have this reading homework, and so I feel like I have been going into all of these mental parts, of starting to address, okay, why are you eating, when you're not hungry? Why are you eating because you're sad when you're not hungry? All these things. And so those components have been really important for me to start addressing as I move along this as well.
Yes, I send all my clients a journal, my empowerment journal, which it's available on my website. They're for sale, but I don't normally sell them. I don't know how to market them, so whatever. But I want everyone I know to use them. They're so great. I use it every day. And so I
Yeah.
send that to all my clients, and it's so great because when we talk, then I can find out, it pulls up more things for us to talk about, but it's a great way to connect. And then I also send books that I want you to read. And it's not like, well, I'm not going to make you, but these are the reasons that you have success, is because you're not just following a diet. You're addressing what's going on with me. It's just like I said, if I give you a magic pill, there's still reasons why you're going to eat things that don't serve you unless you figure out why and you're willing to at least notice. So the first job for all of my clients week 1, and this was the same with you, Brenda, I don't know if you remember, but week 1, I say over and over, I want you to pay attention to this.
Yeah.
When you eat this, I'm not telling you don't eat it, but I want you to pay attention. What are you feeling? How are you feeling? What are the mental cues, what's happening, so that you can be aware to say, I'm conscious of now when I eat at night, it's like, wow, I'm feeling restless. And then I
Yep.
ate whatever. Okay, now we know. And you've been so great. And it helps because so with all, when you come to work with me, you can work with me on nutrition and weight loss. Otherwise, we can also add in life coaching and do all of it. And that's my favorite, not because it's the biggest thing that I do, but because the success rate is so much higher in weight loss when we deal with life,
Yeah.
because life is happening. And so, Brenda, we have started working on life coaching from day one,
Yep.
which, therapy, I'm not a therapist and I don't pretend to be. Therapy is so powerful and so necessary, I think, for all people. But when people are in therapy for a long time and kind of feel like they've gotten enough out of what they're doing for a little while, they want a break. Life coaching is a really amazing shift, because therapy is kind of like a lot of times like pulling the weeds and looking at the roots. And life coaching is planting flowers in the garden where once there were weeds. It's looking forward to the future and creating more of what is to come, and looking forward and seeing what you have to work with. So it's a little bit less of that digging in stuff that I am not qualified to do.
Yeah, I don't think you could have said it any better. And that's exactly how it was for me, because therapy was a lot of my past and what was going on, and what was wrong, whatever. I'm not crazy, all those kinds of things. And then when I finished that, I was like, okay, but what do I want life to look like? I have no idea, what the future looks like, what the present to the future looks like. And you have just been life changing for me. You've
Yee.
been, yeah, you've been such a miracle for me, because, sorry,
I'm crying too, don't worry.
you just started with, just a little piece and a little piece, and you just are the best cheerleader. And, there's just understanding and empathy, and I'm not alone, and you can do this. And, how do we get there? And, oh, okay, you're struggling this week. I've struggled too. What do we do to change that? And it's just been so amazing, and
Yay.
in the past few weeks, I just feel like it's just ramping up, and I've got my momentum going. It's like I'm starting to really believe it.
Yes. Ugh. And
It's
I've
pretty
seen
cool.
you stand in it. That's what's so fun on my side is, the first time we talked, it was you were so sad and
Yeah.
you were so low and so just, oh, help me.
Yeah.
And in 1 week, you were like, I did this and I did that and I did everything. And I was so excited to call you and tell you what I did. And that change in your countenance, and I call it the eyeball effect. Like I work to change eyes, and your
Yeah.
eyes changed. And then every
Yeah.
week, as you've shown up for yourself and you've been creating, in your household, the dynamic with Jack and all these
Yeah.
things we talk about. Now it's September and you're like on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, because you have connected to this feeling good,
Yeah.
and it's intoxicating when you feel good because of what you're doing. And so let's talk a little bit about the life coaching topics that we've talked about, because this is something um, that is so super fun for me. And you have a 6-year-old, and
Yep.
so first thing that we talked about when we started talking about your life is the fact that you are now the creator of your life, especially in this time of transition. You're now living with your son. This relationship has ended and you've
Yeah.
been digging in to fix a lot of this stuff from the past. But now, like you said, what do you want for your future? And instead of like, I don't know, it's scary to say, I don't know, it's exciting. What do I
Yeah.
want? And how do
Yeah.
I start with like, what do I want my house to look like? What
Yeah.
do I want the environment I'm living in to look like? So talk a little bit about some of the fun things that you and Jack have been doing creatively.
It was great because you challenged me to talk with Jack and to build a code of our family. You're like, what's the code of your family? And it took me a couple weeks. I had to like really just gnaw on that for a while and be like, I don't know, what's the code of my family, you know? And you kind of gave me, oh, we're a family that does this, we're a family that does this. And I was like, man, that's really powerful. I really like this, you know, and I want to include Jack in this. And so I had written down just kind of in my phone, well, we're a family that, you know, laughter is really important and love is important in our house. And it's important that we speak kindness in our house. I'm reading off my little list here on my
Yeah.
wall. We
Yeah.
say please, that we're a family that says please and thank you. You know, we take care of each other and we keep each other safe. You know, we celebrate our successes. And I don't like the word failure. I feel like we win or we learn, right?
Yes.
So I said we celebrate our successes and we learn from our mistakes. We do hard things. That came from you. Thank you. We stay curious. We try new things. We keep learning. And then at the end, I put, you know, we make healthy choices when we're feeding our body, mind, and our soul. And there's lots of hugs and kisses. Anyway, I'm reading all this stuff down. So then I was like, okay, now I got to get Jack to buy into this. So one day I I told him, I said, you know, my friend Kristen, you know, challenged us to do this. And what do you think the code of our family is? And he's like, what are you talking about, lady? You know, he's like, and I said, well, I don't know. What do we want in our house? What's important for us, you know, to be able to have in our house every single day? And he was just like, can we please watch some TV? You know, but I just, I just kind of talked with him about some things and I got him to start buying into, well, we like to laugh and we like to celebrate our successes. And there, I think even in there, he's like, you never do that. And I was like, are you kidding me? So the rest of the day, I like over exaggerated every success. And I was jumping up and down and cheering for him. And he's like, oh my gosh, you're embarrassing me. But it, it brought the point home, I feel like,
Yeah.
to where by the end of the day, like he was excited too, you know? And so I went through everything and I wrote everything down as he and I talked about it. He was kind of, you know, half on board. But I can't tell you, Kristen, I have gone back to this list multiple times in the weeks since doing that. And it registers with him. You know, like there are times where he's tired and I'm tired and he's yelling. And I just look at him, I say, Jack, we don't yell at each other. This is not a family that yells at each other. We speak kindness to each other. And it just stops him in his tracks. And just last night, we had a really, really good week this week. Just last night, I was like, oh my gosh, when was the last time we really had an argument? You know, I mean, our life is just much more peaceful.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So you have profoundly affected our home.
Yay. That
Yeah.
makes me so happy.
Yeah.
It's so interesting in all things and all people when we have direction, when we have a touchstone. Like you wrote that code, you put it up on the wall. In times of turmoil or stress, like to have that thing to go back to is no, this is what is important. This is the
Yeah.
main thing. You know, I didn't make up that concept, but it's a concept that if we don't take the time to apply, we lose out on that opportunity. And especially with transition times, you know, we're just it feels awful because there's nothing familiar. But what you came up with is what's really important to you. And you know, the other side of this is, you know, kids are really smart.
Yeah.
And it helps us as the adults to also be accountable to what we say we want, because we're
Yeah.
just as susceptible when we get tired to say, I want to be fit and healthy, but I'm tired. I don't want to go for a walk. Or I want my home to be, you know, positive, but I'm tired. And so I'm feeling negative and I'm not going to spray that all over because this
Yeah.
is actually what I want. So the
Yeah.
children keep us accountable. So I love that. It's so empowering to see you grab these concepts, implement them, and then to see them transform. They're simple concepts,
Yeah.
but just like a simple walk and a simple, you know, protein goal changes your body, these simple tools can change your whole environment, and
Yeah.
you're proving it. It's so exciting. So over the course of a few weeks, I would say your success in all areas has just been phenomenal. But what do you credit to kind of like, well, first of all, let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about September, because the end of August, I said, you know, you're slaying your goals. Everything that we're doing, you've got your protein up, you know, all these things. I want to challenge you to put your foot to the gas a little bit more and either increase the duration of your walks or your intensity. One of the two. So on a day when you're extra tired, you don't have to go longer, but maybe you go a little faster. And I sent you the Strong September graphic where you just check off what you do and then
Yeah.
tell everyone what you have done.
Well, so it's
So great.
it's been awesome. So yeah, I feel like you often challenge me to be like, where are you going to be in December? Where are you going to be in a year? And I just am like, I have no idea, Kristen, which is exactly why you're in my life, But um, so you were like, I'm challenging my boot camp class to do this show up strong September. How are you going to show up strong for yourself? And I was like, I don't know. How am I going to show up strong for myself? Tell me. And that whole night, we talked on August 31st. And so the next morning I woke up and it was on my mind. I was like, how am I going to show up strong for myself? And I wanted a challenging goal, but because you explained it, you're like, you need to do this every single day in September. There's not a day off. You need to, do something that is every single day so that you're showing up for yourself every day, integrity, accountability, and then pride in what you're doing. And I was like, how am I going to show up strong for myself in September? And I was driving to work and my watch told me, hey, you stood for 12 hours a day 11 times last month. Woohoo. And I was like, what? That's really? I should be standing for 12 hours a day every single day. And so it was just really funny because I was like, oh, no, I can do way better than that. And I was like, all right, I've been walking. What was my average step goal in August? And I kind of went back and, some days I was doing really great. I was doing 12,000 steps, but there were several days where I was doing like 2,000 steps or 2,500 steps, and I was like, okay. So the average was 6,000 steps in August. And I was like, okay, I'm going to challenge myself with steps, daily steps. I'm going to raise it to 7,500.
Nice.
So I think I texted you. I'm like, all right, I'm going to show up strong for myself in September by walking 7,500 steps every day. And, the first few days were like, oh, every single day. And then I kind of, caught my stride a little bit. I was like, ooh, I'm doing this. This is pretty cool. And then, I don't know, it was like 8 or 9 days in. I got home at 10 o'clock at night and I looked at my watch and I had 5,500 steps. And I was like, this is where the rubber meets the road. And I really didn't want to go out. I was like, well, I could tell Kristen that my watch died and I really did get 7,500 steps in, or I could do, and my brain is like trying to negotiate with me. And I was like, nope, it's not a blizzard out. You don't have a fever. You're not in the hospital. You're putting your shoes on and you're going outside in the dark and you're going to get your steps in. And I did. And I was really, really proud of myself. That day was pretty monumental.
Amazing. And I have seen you text me your step numbers and then your numbers are going up. Like, what?
Yeah. Like I feel like I have this weekend off. So I feel like I probably should challenge myself to do 10,000 steps every day that I have off this weekend, just because I can and just because it will be cool.
Yes. Awesome. So that's what you've done. You've set the bar. You set the bar at a challenging level, and now that bar is going up.
Yep.
And there's confidence in your voice of like, yeah, not only can I do this, but I can do more if I want to.
Yep.
And that's the fun part too. The eyeball effect is now there's like this looking around, like, ooh, well, what else can I do? Instead of like, I could just never do it. It's too much. I'm so tired. Now your eyes say, what's next?
Yeah.
It's a total shift. It's so much fun. I keep repeating it. It's so much fun to sit in my chair and watch all this. You're doing the work, but I feel like I get to reap the rewards right along with you, which is so super fun. And it's, we're halfway through September, and I'm curious for you to get your data from your watch of how many steps that you have, walked total each month leading up to September. So you can really see how just getting started and just getting a little momentum has changed dramatically what's happening in your lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely text it to you. I'll take a look. I know it's more. I feel like even the other day it was kind of comparing like last year to this year or something, and I was like, oh, I'm going to work on that goal. Like I'm going to make that way better. Oh, and another thing that my watch was telling me was it keeps pinging me that's saying, hey, you're way more active in the last 2 weeks than you were, last month, and my little health app pops up and is like, your heart rate has been going, higher when you're working out than it has been, and it's like noticing that I've been more active. And I'm like, yeah, I have been. I've been showing up strong for myself.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. The you're setting all these PRs and you're putting the benchmark there. And you're not on a diet and you're not on a challenge. Like I always say, my favorite thing to say now is there's no wagon. Like people
Yeah.
say, I fell off the wagon. There's no wagon. There's your life. There's your life. You're living your life. However you're living an average day is your life. That's the
Yeah.
wagon you're on.
Yeah.
And so you're on the life wagon and you're continuing to define what that is.
Yeah.
And it's just phenomenal. Um, so for anybody that might be listening and say like, well, this resonates with me, but what do you say to anybody who is feeling stuck and, doesn't want to hire a coach, whatever, but is stuck? What is your advice? Now I say learn it and then lead it. What would you say to somebody who's stuck, just like you were, or even similarly?
Oh, that's a great question. Without you, if I were talking to somebody who says, hey, I'm stuck, I would just say, just start with something small, start with an attainable goal. Focus on your protein, focus on water, focus on moving your body. Be willing to make small changes that you can make for the rest of your life. I feel like that has been something that has been really critical in talking with you, is that it's like, this needs to be sustainable for the rest of my life, because so many diets for me in the past are just not sustainable. I'm starving myself and I'm so hungry that, the moment you reach a number, the wheels fall off, you fall off the wagon, and whatever, whatever you want to call it. And it's just like, you eat all the things. And now I'm like, I need to be able to fuel my body in a healthy way for the rest of my life. And I need to move, and I need to take care of myself for Jack, and you.
Yes, absolutely. And the white knuckling it for diets and challenges, I mean, that's why they don't work, because you're
Yeah.
just waiting for it to be over.
Yeah.
And it's your life. It's going to be over someday, but it's like taking care of yourself is never going to be over. It's never going
Right.
to be, that's kind of a sad fact. I have so many people I talk to for, potentially working together, and they say, I just don't want to have to think about it. I just want to figure out what to do so that I don't have to think about it. And I'm like, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Your soul lives inside of a physical body, and that physical body left unattended will fail you and die and rust and deteriorate.
Yeah.
And if you want your soul to exist in this world for as long as possible, the maintenance required for the body you live in is required.
Yeah.
So let's find a way that we feel good about all of this, that feels doable, because it is the reality.
Yeah.
And and that's what you're doing every single day. And your experience with post weight loss surgery is also just so important, I think, for people to hear, because um the weight loss surgery is a powerful tool,
Yeah.
but I have proved it, you have proved it, I think everyone who has weight loss surgery has proved it. It's a tool,
Yeah.
but there's no magic bullet. There just isn't.
Yeah, that's right. And just because, and I'm thankful to have done that. It taught me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't control the types of food you put in your mouth. And you've said it, and I am a huge believer, the hyper palatable processed foods that are everywhere in our society. It doesn't, you could do all the weight loss tools in the world, weight loss surgeries in the world. And if you're still choosing those foods, nothing's going to be successful.
No. And there are people who don't have weight issues who eat garbage, and they're what we call skinny fat. They're not
Yeah.
healthy. So it's, we can go down that rabbit hole too. So,
Yeah.
but so of all the things that you've done, I asked you this the other day too, but what is the one key to your success? What is the thing that is the kicker in all of this, or the thing that clicked, or the one thing that is, the key to your success?
I mean, I guess I would just say I asked for help, I don't know that I would have been able to do this without your help, honestly. You know what I mean? Is there one key? Yeah, you just said, you can do this. Let's start with protein first and start moving your body. And, get some water. They were all things that I knew, but could I have gotten there on my own? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I guess glad we don't ever have to know. But the key that you said is like you started.
Right.
It's only been a few weeks, and
Yeah.
just think about like describe a little bit how you felt the day before we talked, and compare it to how you feel now.
I mean, I just feel like I was in a fog. I was a hot mess. I just couldn't focus. Maybe everything was out of focus. I was just in a fog. It was just like getting through the day and not feeling great about myself, and just like, this is a mess and I need some help to figure this out, and I feel like that's how I was the first time I talked to you, and then it was just like, okay, we're going to start this one day at a time. We're just going to begin. And just 1 week of just something simple. I was like, "Ooh, I did that." And I feel like multiple times along the way, I'm like, "Oh, that's right. I did that in the past and that really worked for me. I'm so glad, or I'll rediscover a food or rediscover walking and how good that feels, or, just different things and be like, "Oh, that's right. That
Aha.
really worked for me in the past."
Aha. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. And that your confidence, your tone, just your countenance, your structure of your life is just so different in just a
Yeah.
few weeks. And when I think about, the end of the year. So let's talk about that. December 31st, you get invited to a New Year's Eve party. Like, think about how that's going to feel to get ready to go out, to go socialize. Think about, what are you going to be able to wear? How are you going to be able to imagine showing up with the food situation and the social situation, and just imagine, visualize that. That's another 3 months away. All things remaining equal the way that they're going. How do you expect to be able to show up?
Well, I definitely feel like, I will pick something that feels good on my body so that I feel happy, in what I'm wearing. As far as food goes, I will have negotiated whatever. Is there something that I really want to eat that night? Is there not something I don't want to eat that night? I feel like I've pretty much decided that alcohol isn't for me. So maybe I will want to have one drink, but I pretty much only ever drink a half of it, so I will have decided that beforehand. And, I'll just be really excited to go and spend time with people because I feel like that's most of it, enjoying people, meeting new people, just having a good time.
Yes. With confidence. I mean, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good. And I'm excited for, the 1 year mark, to say, what have I accomplished in a year? Like, that's exciting for me as a coach, because I see that potential the first time I talk to you, and I just need you to have a little faith that you can do this.
Yeah.
And you chose to have a little faith, and you're doing it. And when we get that reputation of respect and confidence in ourselves, everything is possible, and we get everything we want. I say it on this podcast all the time. Everything that you want, you can have, as long as you don't quit.
Yeah.
Every single thing you imagine and think of and dream of, you can have it as long as you do not quit. And the first step is starting, and then you just don't quit, and it's all yours. It's all yours,
Yeah.
which is so fun. I'm all
Yeah.
fired.
It's fabulous. I feel like I believe that more and more every week. You know what I mean? It's like I really feel like, the more I do this and the more boxes I check and the more successes I have, it's like, oh yeah, you really are capable of this, and it's just like this, I don't know, this little blooming flower or something in me, that's just like really starting to grow and be like, oh yeah, you're powerful. You can do this. What do you can slay this. You can do these things.
Yes, you do hard things.
Yeah.
And yes, you really are watering that flower.
Yeah.
Life happens. Life on life's terms. Life doesn't happen to you. People don't hurt you. People do things that are hurtful. Life happens. Life
Yeah.
gets crappy, and it affects us.
Yeah.
And we forget our power. We forget how lovable we are. We forget that we don't have to reach for those old things anymore. We forget, and we lose
Yeah.
touch with it. And things like COVID happen. And who could have expected that?
Yeah.
And at some point we get to say, you know what? It's time for me again. I want to remember who I am. I want to bloom again. I want to blossom. I want to have everything that I can imagine in life. And that's exactly what you're doing. And it's why it's so important to me that you came onto the podcast. I've been saying to you, I think since week 3, like, you're going to be on this podcast because people need to hear how
Yeah.
phenomenal you are.
I was real nervous. You knew how nervous I was, so you let it go a couple weeks. You're like,
Yes,
okay, I'm going to
I
give
just
her another
kept
couple weeks.
saying it. But we're almost done, so it's almost over. You can stop squeezing your eyes now.
Exactly.
So one last note, just because I have to do it. So when I work with people, I always say I want 3 months of your commitment. Now you don't sign a contract with me, but I need you to commit that you're going to take some time. I don't want a deadline. I want us to take time to do the work. So 3 months, that's what I'm asking for you. And then at that point you can do whatever. And most of my clients stay with me longer, but my goal is to work my way out of a job. Like, I want you to be so proud and confident, and then I want you to lead that. But my coaching is something that people have to pay for. I it's my job. It's what I do. It's my livelihood.
Yep.
And I understand budgets are different, and I work with every budget. But can you just tell people in non-monetary terms, what the value of working with a coach is? Just because there are people who, well, people imagine it's $50,000 or something, and it's not. I'm very affordable in the life coach arena, but
Yeah.
taking the monetary value out, what is the value of having a coach?
So, it's invaluable. I don't know that I can put into words. I'm going to cry again, Kristen, darn it.
Okay.
I can't, I don't know that I can put into words how much you have meant to me. First off, you asked me to trust you, and I did. And then you proved that I can trust you, that you're just always in my corner. You're always there to cheer me on. When I fail, it's not shame. It's like, oh yeah, I've been there. Here's what I can do. Here's what let's talk about this. Let's talk through it. What can we do different next time? Understanding that I'm human.
Yeah.
And life isn't always going to be perfect, and let's talk about tools for how to navigate that next time, because it's going to happen again. It's just been so valuable. And so working with a coach also, and you've said this to me, saying something out loud and writing it down changes something in your head.
Yes.
And I really believe that. And that's kind of what I feel like I felt in therapy was, oh my gosh, being able to talk with another human being about what's going on was life-changing for me, and so I wanted that, just be like, how do I get through all of this and start moving forward? And you've just been amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm trying to solicit all of that, but I take that, I put it in my heart. It's what fuels me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can say it a billion times to convince people that what I do is really valuable, but hearing it from you, I hope that there are people listening that have thought about this and that will, if not to me, I'm not for everyone, but to find someone to talk to get guidance into the next phase of life, to create a future of your wildest dreams and everything that you want. So thank you so much. Do you have anything else that you want to say to me or to the listeners before we wrap up?
I just say, I don't know, reach for your dreams, because it's real good. Working hard for your goals and achieving them is just the best.
Amen. That's an amazing way to wrap up. I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I fully intend to have you back on in the future to do a follow-up. I done a podcast with Kate, another client, same amazing, fun to have her on, and we're going to do a follow-up with her too. So if you're willing, we'll do another chat with you in the next few weeks and check in on how things are going again.
100% yes, I would love to.
Woo-hoo! All right, so you heard it here. All right, well, thanks so much for being here. If any of you who are listening have questions that you want to direct directly to Brenda about her experience, you can send to me, Kristen at KristenSmithOnline.com, or send me an Instagram message, and I will make sure I send it to Brenda. As well, I know it's always great to learn from people who are doing things that you want to do and that you can relate to. So I will feel free to forward any of that to Brenda. But that's all we have. So thanks so much for being here, Brenda.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Thanks for tuning in to the podcast. I'm so excited you're here. If you want to interact with me, go ahead and send me an email, Kristen@KristenSmithOnline.com. Follow me on Instagram, The Kristen Experience, and make sure you share this podcast with a friend. That's all I have for you today. Have an awesome week. We'll see you next time here on Destination Begin.